Oh, just let's see. And then the video is our okay, it's good. You want to make sure it's each letter. Would be for the microphone. Oh, H series. I'm gonna try the testing. I put the mic back up. Oh, you did? Okay. What's that red dot? I don't know. Go to detect your speaker. What? Pass it. Yeah. I've yeah. I've yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Jam with the put the audio back on the other. Oh, what do you think? I see. Okay. Testing, testing. It's picking me up. And that's probably the camera mic. We don't want that. Right. So, oh, so change the mic. Let's see. This H series stereo track. Uh-huh. And it's picking me up. Yep. I'm gonna switch it back.
Good evening. We're at 6 o'clock, but we still have a lot of people coming in. So we'll give about 5 more minutes for those of you guys outside to come inside, check in and come inside, find a seat and get ready for the meeting to get started. So please be patient. Let's get everyone seated and we'll start the meeting in about 5 minutes. Thank you. not, we can try this one. Beyond. He said he. Yeah, just use this one.
Testing 1, 2.
Hello? No, I don't get it. Can I get some? Okay, then maybe I just need to get closer. I don't like. Si ocupan interpretación, sorry, I'm gonna make an announcement for anybody that might need interpretation. Si alguien ocupa interpretación, acá pueden ir a la mesa. If anybody needs interpretation into Spanish, there was a couple people in the registration that identified that they needed translation. So if you know somebody, they can come over to the corner. Si ocupan interpretación al español, pueden venir acá a la esquina.
At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to take a seat, please. We have people that are on wait list. So in order for us to see who is here and who we could welcome from the wait list, we need everyone that RSVP'd and checked in to take a seat, please. And if you have an empty seat next to you, please raise your hand. For people that are just walking in, there are some empty seats in the front. Like a few.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay, hold on. He just switched. Let's see if this changes it.
There are still a few empty seats, so please raise your hand if there's an empty seat next to you so that we could get started with the meeting. Okay. There are several seats up in the front, so if you're just walking in, please make yourself to the front and find an empty seat in the front. Testing, testing. Yeah, I mean, there's still like 2 people, so maybe can you just like get everyone that's like at the table to go in and then I'll start. Yeah. Again, we still have people walking in, so please keep your hands raised for the newcomers that are walking in so that we could get the meeting started.
There's still a couple more seats up here in the front. We're gonna give it 1 more minute and then we'll get started. Y si ocupan interpretación al español, acá enfrente. Está la idea.
Okay, we're gonna start the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's Westside Area Plan Community Meeting. My name is Julie Yam, and I am the project lead working on the Westside Area Plan. On behalf of the Westside Area Plan team, I'd like to thank you for being here tonight and showing interest in our project. We had our project kickoff meeting at the Kenneth Hahn State Recreation Area last August. So it's been about a year since the project team has been doing active outreach on the Westside area plan. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to remind the audience that the County Westside Area Plan Project team provided numerous opportunities to engage with constituents since last year. So please note that this isn't the first time the team is holding an in-person meeting. Most recently, we held a draft Westside Area Plan and EIR meeting on June 25th virtually, which was attended by 283 people. This is a follow-up to that meeting because we've received many requests from the community members of Ladera Heights, View Park, Windsor Hills, asking for an in-person meeting within the community for an opportunity to connect with the county planners. There has been a lot of confusion and misinformation about what the Westside Area Plan is and what it intends to do. Thus, we are here tonight at the request of the community. Whether you're joining us for the first time or are a returning community member, we hope you leave tonight's meeting with a better understanding of what the Westside Area Plan is and what this plan means for your community. For clarification, the county's Westside Area Plan is not to be confused with the City of LA's Westside Community Plans. The City of LA is also updating their Westside community plans for the unincorporated city communities in the West Side. However, the city's plan is a different effort and not associated with our department or the county's Westside Area Plan. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the community agreement to ensure that we have an engaging and successful meeting. Please remember to be kind and courteous to each other. Patience and understanding are important to ensure each person is heard. This is an environment for learning and mutual understanding. Respect differences. Everyone is at a different level of understanding, and that is okay. We have to respect each other and whether we are and where we are in life. Try to monitor your tone and word choices as much as possible. Be gracious. There is no wrong question or comment. Be accountable and receptive. If you have been offended or feel you may have been offended someone, take a moment to acknowledge and apologize. We, the county staff, is here by the community's request, and we hope you tune in with an open mind, courtesy, and respect so that we can have a smooth meeting tonight. Here is the agenda for tonight's meeting. First, we will start with welcome and introductions. We will then move on to the Westside Area Plan Project Overview presentation. Some of the information may be redundant with what you may have heard in previous meetings, but bear with me and consider it as regrounding of the information pertinent to understand what the Westside Area Plan is. After the presentation, I will ask the audience to visit the breakout stations managed by LA County planning staff. We have 4 stations prepared, and each station will have special topics. There are stations for CEQA and EIR, historic context statement, or anything related to historic preservation, and 2 stations for general project information, land use, and zoning. I encourage you to also take a look at the poster boards that we have on display outside. Also, during this time, comment cards will be collected by county staff. So if you have any comments or questions on the project, please fill one out and submit it during this time. After the breakout stations, we will transition to item number 4, responses to comments and questions, which a panel of Westside Area Plan Project team members will acknowledge using the cards collected. Once we wrap up this session, we will end the meeting with closing remarks. This meeting is scheduled to end at 8 o'clock, and we plan to stay on schedule. I ask for your cooperation during each agenda item so that we could get through the meeting on time. comment/question card. You must have seen a comment card on each seat. We are also passing it out. We will be using these comment cards to solicit comments or questions from the audience tonight. As you can see, we have a pretty large crowd tonight, and to do so in an organized manner, we ask you to write down your questions or comments on the cards, which will be collected by county staff after the presentation. Please write neatly so that we could clearly read your questions or comments. While we are accepting comments and questions on the Westside Area Plan and EIR, we will try our best to get through as many comment cards as possible. If there are similar comments or questions that share the same topic, those cards will be grouped together. Also, most questions may already have answers in the FAQ documents, which we have printed out and also available on project website. For the questions that we cannot get to and that do not have the answers in the FAQ document, the project team will create a list with those questions and answers and have it posted on our project website. Also, EIR-related questions and comments will be included as part of responses to comments in the final EIR. Now, I'd like to take a moment to do an introduction of the county staff that are here tonight. From LA County Planning, we have the following staff from the Westside Area Plan Project Team. We have Connie Chung, our Deputy Director, Edward Rojas, Assistant Deputy Director, Bruce Durbin, Supervising Planner, and myself, Principal Planner, and also Miriam Thompson, a planner on our team. We have additional planners from the department with us here to provide support at the breakout stations. We have Addie Farrell from PlaceWorks to help with any CEQA or EIR related questions. We also have representatives from Supervisor Mitchell's office. Lastly, the county would like to thank and acknowledge the leadership from the Ladera Heights Civic Association and United Homeowners Association for helping us secure the location and to advertise for the meeting. At this time, I'd like to invite Isela Gracian from Supervisor Mitchell's office for a welcoming remark and grounding of rules that will guide tonight's meeting. Isela?
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to do one more time in Spanish, just in case, because there's just a couple people that noted that they need interpretation. Buenas tardes a todos. Si ocupan interpretación, pueden venir a la mesa aquí a un lado para que les den un equipo de interpretación. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for being involved in your community. I want to underscore and restate the thanks to the Ladera Heights Civic Association and their current president, Desiree Bowen, who got called away last minute for work, as well as the United Homeowners Association. Thank you, Tony McDonald, their current president, and all of the members that helped put this meeting together today. Again, I'm Isela Gracian, and I serve as Supervisor Mitchell's Senior Deputy on Housing, Homelessness, and Planning. And there's a few folks from our team. I'm going to ask them to raise their hand because they will also can help with questions. I forgot my shirt today, but most folks are in the gray or the teal shirt with the logo. And on behalf of Supervisor Mitchell, as well as our Chief of Staff, Rodrigo McGee, they weren't able to join today, but we did brief them, and Tracy is our lead for the communities here in Ladera Heights and View Park, and we're working on another date for a listening session with Supervisor Mitchell. But we felt that it was really important to still have this meeting today because the Westside Area Plan is in the public comment period. The draft Westside Area Plan is in public comment period, as well as the environmental impact report. During the public comment period, all of your comments and questions go into record of the document, And then it helps our team go through and continue to engage with regional planning on what will be updated in the plan. So today's meeting is really focused on being able to have an additional opportunity in person to be able to provide the comments on the plan. So as Julie mentioned, for those of you that have participated in other meetings, if you were on the Zoom call, you're going to hear the same information. This isn't a meeting to say like, oh, we heard this and then we're going to update, because we're in this public comment period. The documents have not been changed or modified based on the comments that we've received already. Again, this is another opportunity for receiving and documenting that public comment. And for those of you that have already submitted comments, whether directly to regional planning or to our office, we definitely hear you on the concerns around traffic, around safety, on the potential that already exists, the potential for increased challenges around infrastructure, density, heights of buildings, businesses, the care for local businesses and an opportunity for them to continue to be in the community. We've also heard concerns around affordability, around housing and safety. So these are all comments that our office has received, that Tracy has heard from some of you here and other of your neighbors that may have not been able to join us today. So we hear them, we've uplifted them for Supervisor Mitchell, and in that listening session with her, we're going to bring all those pieces together, including for the Westside area plan. And I just wanted to share additionally, just for your all's awareness, how our office is approaching planning in general, right, for our unincorporated areas, because that is where the county and Supervisor Mitchell will oversee. It is important for our office and for Supervisor Mitchell that we have communication and that these plans work together, right? Because although there's the boundaries, as people, we don't engage and live with those boundaries, right? So our office, I have met with the planners from LA City, regional planning planners have met with the planners from LA City. We've also shared the concerns that folks have raised around what they released in their draft. And it is important for Supervisor Mitchell that we continue those conversations and that there is cohesion across the plans, because again, as humans, we don't operate with those boundaries around planning or just how we engage in our neighborhoods and communities. And then additionally, I want to share with you that the area plans, land use, zoning, these are tools that set around vision. And for our team, for our office, and for Supervisor Mitchell, implementation is really important, right? So some of the ideas and some of the concerns and some of the items that are brought up will not land in the land use and zoning. You know, what can be built, what kind of businesses can be there. Some ideas that come up are housed in other areas of other departments, whether it's like street safety, speed. Also, as humans, we don't engage in that kind of compartmentalized. So for the listening session with Supervisor Mitchell, our intent is to be able to bring some of those other plans into the conversation so that we can collectively see how they all intersect with each other, and that we're capturing, even though what you might share today, like if any of you here are interested in like quality of schools, this plan doesn't touch schools, but we will uplift that and share that with the appropriate entity that looks at schools. So that's just an example. So I'm really excited to be here with you all. I know these are hard conversations because this is about the now in your communities and the future of your communities. And it also brings up the history of the communities. And all too often not having been heard and not having been listened to and not having been taken into account. And the county has been on on evolution of how they're engaging with residents. And we still have a ways to go. So we understand and welcome also feedback and critique on how we can continue to improve resident engagement and involvement. But I thank you all again for coming out, for being here. Julie's going to go over the general information of the plan. We want to make space for folks to circulate at the tables. We intentionally want to do that to be able to deepen your feedback, your comments. Our team's going to be around. You can come and talk with us. We'll take additional notes. And again, that'll all, in addition to going into the record of the plan, for our team, we're going to uplift that to Supervisor Mitchell. And we're working on the schedule. We're trying to get that in August for you all to have a listening session where she's going to join us as well. So again, thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out and the regional planning team for being out here. And I'll pass it back to Julie.
Thank you, Isela. So with that, I'll now start the presentation on the Westside Area Plan Project Overview. To begin, I'd like to provide a brief high-level overview of what an area plan is. Let's take a moment to briefly explain the relationship between a general plan and an area plan. The county general plan serves as the foundation for all local plans, such as area plans, community plans, and coastal land use plans. An area plan is being prepared or updated for each of the county's 11 planning areas and will provide opportunities to update local planning tools, such as specific plans and community standards district, which involves changes to zoning and land use. Area plans address the same issues as the general plan, adding greater specificity to the local context. What is an area plan? It's a comprehensive long-range planning document that guides the future physical land use development for a particular geographic area of the county. An area plan outlines a vision, goals, policies, and implementation programs that will guide future development for a particular area of the county. Area plans build off the general plan and involves community participation for developing a long-term vision for the area, identify future land uses in an overall community-wide context, and recommend future infrastructure improvements to mobility networks. An area plan will not repeat existing county policies and will not address justice, law enforcement, immigration, nutrition, education, medical care, or other topics of similar nature. With that information I just provided, let's zoom into the Westside Area Plan and find out what that means. Here you see a map of LA County. The yellow areas are unincorporated areas, and the colorless parts are incorporated cities. The Westside planning area is one of the 11 planning areas in the LA County, and it's circled in blue on the screen. LA County is actively updating or preparing an area plan for each planning area. Most recently, the Metro Area Plan and East San Gabriel Valley Area Plan were completed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors. The Westside planning area includes several unincorporated communities, and they are Ladera Heights, View Park, and Windsor Hills, Marina del Rey, Boyona Wetlands, and then a series of smaller Westside islands. We've received some comments about why not consider Marina del Rey or West LA to rezone or change the land use. It's important to note that Marina del Rey and West LA/Sotol VA are governed by separate planning processes and are not anticipated to change through the Westside Area Plan. Because Marina del Rey is located in the coastal zone, Marina del Rey Land Use Plan must be approved by the State Coastal Commission. Therefore, the Marina del Rey Land Use Plan, or also known as Local Coastal Program, will be updated as a separate planning process. West LA/Sotol VA is entirely within federal jurisdiction and currently undergoing a separate master planning process. Also, the other smaller Westside islands do not have any residents. We've also received comments about why not consider the city of Beverly Hills or Westchester. This is a county plan and only includes the unincorporated communities within the county. Therefore, the Westside area plan will mainly focus primarily on unincorporated areas of Ladera Heights, View Park, Windsor Hills, and West Fox Hills, which we distinguish as focus planning areas. And they're circled in the screen. So let's talk about the project components for the Westside area plan. First, there is the Westside area plan. There has been misinformation about this area plan by calling it an upzoning plan. However, that is not true. While a component of the project includes rezoning certain sites, what the Westside area plan is that it's a comprehensive plan that includes various chapters or elements that include historic resources, land use, mobility, economic development, conservation and open space, and public facilities and services. Land use is one of the plan elements, but there is a lot more to the plan than just that. It's a policy document that synthesizes our local planning directives, which are outlined in the general plan, input from community members, and state-level policies to develop overarching goals for the Westside communities. The plan's elements cover a variety of topics that encourages housing opportunities, supports sustainable mobility options, protects and preserves natural resources and open spaces, enhance built environment and county facilities, fosters economic vitality, promotes historic preservation. There are goals and policies for each of the elements, as well as implementation programs that explain the actions that will be taken. As you know, the draft area plan and EIR are currently available for public review. I highly encourage you to take a look at them because the area plan is a lot more than just rezoning your communities. It establishes a vision for the communities and includes goals and policies for integral elements that impact your quality of life. Second is an environmental impact report, or an EIR, an environmental document that analyzes the potential environmental impacts from the planning policies set forth in the area plan. The draft Westside area plan and EIR are currently available on our project website, and we are currently accepting comments until August 16th. They are also available at 5 public libraries in the planning area, which you see on the screen. The project team encourages you to submit comments to the project email address provided on the screen. In this segment of the presentation, I'd like to explain the methods behind the sites selected for rezoning through the Westside area plan. First, I'd like to explain what the proposed land use and zoning updates mean. First of all, not all rezoning is upzoning. It can include upzoning, but also include downzoning or simply changing the zoning to a different land use. The Westside area plan proposed land use and zoning does not require any property owner to do anything or build anything, and it does not require the county to build anything. This plan is a document and is not tied to any actual construction. This is a comprehensive area plan for the next 20 years, and approving this plan does not mean you will see shovel-ready projects the day after its adoption. The Westside area plan is a future forward-looking plan, meaning it's meant to help guide and manage development and growth over the next 20 years. A part of the project involved a comprehensive review of all properties within the Westside planning area. This review resulted in proposing land use and zoning updates in the following categories. First, technical cleanup, which is really administrative in nature and is a data correction method to fix inconsistencies between land use and zoning on specific parcels. Second, housing element sites that meet the state mandated requirements of the regional housing needs allocation. Lastly, opportunity sites were selected based on community input as part of the Westside area plan. Now, let's take a deeper dive into those three categories. First, technical cleanup changes are made in response to a state law which requires zoning ordinances to be consistent with the general plan. In other words, zoning and land use designation must be consistent with one another. To comply with this government code, a review of all properties in the Westside planning area was conducted by the project team to verify if the land use designation and zoning were consistent with each other. For properties where these were not consistent, we are proposing either a land use or zoning update to correct the inconsistency. I'll give an example. The map on the right side of the screen depicts a portion of residential area in Ladera Heights at the intersection of Slauson Avenue and La Tijera Boulevard, which is adjacent to the Knox Presbyterian Church that we are here tonight. They are currently zoned R3, and we are proposing to change them to R2. The table at the top shows that it's currently zoned as R3 with general plan land use designation of H18, which is inconsistent. If you look at the two blue tables on the left side, R3 zoning equates to limited density multiple residence, which is inconsistent with land use of H18, which allows single family residences or two family residences. Therefore, we are proposing to downzone these parcels to R2 to make the zoning consistent with the land use of H18. As you can see with this example, not all rezoning is upzoning. We are simply correcting the zoning to match the land use and essentially downzoning. This is another example of rezoning in West Fox Hills. The green areas are currently zoned as R1 and R3, which allows single and multi-family housing. However, these parcels are on top of the Centinela Creek channel and are not suitable for housing to be built on top. It is inconsistent with the existing land use of W, which means body of water. Therefore, through the Westside area plan, these parcels are proposed to be rezoned to OS, which allows the land use for body of water. Next, there are the housing element sites. Body of water is any tributaries of water, such as lake, creeks. This is in West Fox Hills, Centinela, and the south and 90. So this is not in Ladera Heights View Park, Windsor Hills. This is in the incorporated area of West Fox Hills. We will get to, you can look at the map outside. I would like to move on with the presentation. Like I said, this is within the unincorporated area of West Fox Hills. This is a small island within the Westside planning area. It's at the intersection of Centinela Avenue and the 90 freeway. That's correct. This is not the mall. This is a small residential area. And there is a map outside that has all the planning communities. So we would like to get to your questions, but let me run through my presentation first.
Julie, hold on just a moment. One of the regional planners, can you bring the map that Julie's referencing? And we'll go over it in just a moment. Yeah, so hold on. Julie, how many more slides do you have?
I have 20 more slides left.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on. So we're gonna get the map. Yeah. So if you let me just a moment, because one of the questions in the cards was to explain what the whole West Side area plan was. So, but I hear you. So Julie, if we can focus on the Ladera Heights, and I think we also have some View Park residents here. I understand that you're going over the whole West Side area plan. That's what we had planned because of time. So these, and we'll come around, just for those of you that are interested in seeing all of the different areas. Hold on. So what we'll do so that those of you that want to see the overall area map, we'll have folks just walk around so you could see them. This one. You need to walk around with it because it's small. And if you can go on the outside for those folks that are interested. So the West Side, the county for our area plans has multiple unincorporated areas within the plan. So Julie's going over the whole West Side area plan, but I hear you honing in on the View Park, sorry, Ladera Heights. So, oh, there, it's that one. He's going to circulate. Yeah, he's going to go all the way around. He's going to go all the way around. Yes. Oh, here. Hold on. Tony, here you go. Oh.
Hi. Everyone, can I get everyone's attention, please? I'm Tony Tabor with United Homeowners Association, and what I would like to ask for all of you to do is to hold off on your questions. And it sounded from the back outrage. Let's channel that and wait to ask questions and get answers. But, okay, all I'm saying is that the meeting is only 2 hours long, and I think it will be best to be respectful. Right. No, I know, but let's do that, and so we can get to the question and answer. They will. No, they will.
So the reason why starting off here, because not everybody has heard the presentation, right? And I hear you. I'm explaining to why we started here. So now she's gonna do a couple more slides, and because we knew we were gonna have a bigger group, that's why we have the comment cards. And you're right, we're not gonna get to go through all the questions. If anybody wants to stay here later, I can stay here with you and we can go through all the questions. All of these. Sure. How many people have already heard the whole presentation? No, there's about half the folks that haven't raised their hand. So we're just gonna do a couple more slides. So Julie, if you can hone in on the ones for Ladera so that we can move on to folks circulating, please. Thank you. Go for it, Julie.
Okay, I'm going to resume with this slide on housing element because this is relevant to the entire planning area, including Ladera Heights, View Park, Windsor Hills. So these sites have been identified prior to the initiation of the West Side area plan to comply with state law. State law requires each city and county to plan for the estimated number of homes for its current and future residents through land use and zoning regulations. This is done through the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, in which the state estimates each region's housing needs for the upcoming 8 years, and it is implemented through updates to the housing element, the housing policy guide for all the counties and incorporated communities. The current cycle of the housing element is from 2021 to 2029, in which the county must plan and accommodate for approximately 90,000 housing units. This is a county-wide effort and not targeted to the West Side planning area. There has been a robust outreach on the county's housing element update, which goes back to a few years. In fact, County Planning Housing Policy Team had given presentation on the housing element update to both the UHA and Ladera Heights Civic Association back in April 2021. So this is not the first time we are doing outreach on housing element. in this area, and we've been proactively engaging with the key community organizations even prior to the inception of the Westside Area Plan. This chart shows the breakdown of the RENA allocation by planning area. Again, the county's requirement is 90,000 housing units, and the county has to identify where to locate these housing units within the unincorporated areas. You can see that the potential for 6,004 units was calculated for the entire Westside planning area, which is in orange. As you can see, the number allocated for Westside planning area is not as big as other planning areas. Other municipalities have their own RENA numbers to meet. For context, the city of Los Angeles has 406,000 units to meet. The city of Inglewood has 7,400 units to meet. Culver City has 3,300 units, and Santa Monica has approximately 9,000 units to meet within their communities. Per the HCD, community plan must retain equal or greater capacity for new housing units. If not at locations indicated in housing element, realistic housing capacity must be accommodated elsewhere in the plan area. So how did the county select where to place multifamily housing per the housing element? The county established a meticulous formula to identify the sites for housing element. In summary, these sites are outside of environmentally sensitive or naturally constrained areas, near transit, amenities and services, within areas served by existing infrastructure, within higher resource areas for educational attainment and economic mobility, suitable for land for multifamily housing development. This explains the high numbers in the other planning area, which is the metro planning area, which is very urban and have the infrastructure to support multifamily housing, versus a rather low number in Antelope Valley planning area, which is considered rural. Much of the work that the Westside Area Plan project team is doing, such as rezoning to address housing needs and LA County planning as a whole, is dictated by state law. Over the last few years, the state has become increasingly active in passing laws that limit local government's control over reviewing housing development projects, including the ability to deny housing projects if certain criteria are met, reduce density, or render housing development projects infeasible. Recent laws include SB 4, the Affordable Housing on Faith Lands Act, which provides a streamlined process for religious organizations and nonprofit colleges to develop affordable housing on their property. SB 9, which permits 2 dwelling units per lot and allows single-family homeowners to split their lots. SB 35, which requires local governments, and SB 330, as well as SB 890, 897, and AB 2020-21. Due to the state mandate, rezoning and making room for housing, it's something that the local government has to comply with. It's not a matter of.
So one of the questions that we've gotten in, even in some of the notes, is like, why are we including certain things in the proposed, or why is regional planning including certain items in the overall area plan? So that's why Julie's going over this. So let us figure out how to go a little bit faster, well, to be able to get to their questions. But this has been one of the questions, and there still is some questions in the comment cards as I was reading through the question of like what is guiding, like what are the goals, like what are some of those pieces? And so this is part of it, right? That there's state laws and mandates that local jurisdictions are supposed to go over. I know, but I don't want to go through all these. If any of you are more interested in any one of those, we can sidebar with regional planning. So let's skip, we can continue to the next slide. Yes. Yes, so we need to see,
Okay, so I'll jump through the rest of the presentation quickly so that we could allow the maximum time for for engagement. So as part of the Westside Area Plan, the project team has identified 12 opportunity sites to enhance the quality of life for community residents. These sites were carefully selected through community input. Much of the input voiced the desire to maintain and preserve the characteristic of existing residential neighborhoods while protecting natural resources and open spaces. To reflect the community's feedback, the rezoning through opportunity sites is focused on commercial corridors where most of the existing uses are non-residential. I'd like to make a note that a couple of the sites that are selected as opportunity sites are currently under review by the project team for consideration to reevaluate, and the final decision will be disclosed in the final Westside Area Plan.
stop here. So stop here, because one of the other questions is, there's a few comment cards that ask, like, is this a done deal? So no, it's not, because this is part of the process. It's in draft. That's why the comments come in. There's some things that'll change, some things will not, because as you see, there's some state laws that we have to follow. There's other goals that we have to follow. So there's more of a timeline to the final Westside Area Plan, right? And it still has to go to the Planning Commission. It still has to go to the full board. So there is, that's why it's in draft. And these, so you can, is there one more slide before we do the breakouts?
Yeah.
Go back. So it's smaller on this one. Is there a bigger map outside on this one?
There are maps outside, yeah.
Yeah. And, sorry.
There are maps outside in the poster boards.
Oh, you want me to read the site numbers? Is that what you're asking? Oh, which ones are under?
So we've received comments on site 1, Centinela Green Valley, and also site 10 on Angeles Vista, Valley Ridge. So
oh, the slide won't let us make it bigger. We need to figure it out outside. So let's just do, is there one more slide?
we could, I mean, I wanted to talk about it.
And then the shopping center. So is it okay if we go over this one? Because this is where we've gotten a lot of questions.
Yeah, so let's jump to this one. So because I think this will find a lot of the audience will find this to be pertinent. So this is opportunity site number 2, the Ladera Shopping Center. This particular site is unique because 2/3 sit in the county and 1/3 belongs to the city of LA. As you may know, City of LA is also updating their West Side community plans, which includes the 1/3 of Ladera Shopping Center. Again, the county's West Side area is not the city's plan. As illustrated by the table to the left, what the county proposes on the site has clear restrictions in terms of height and density. The current land use is general commercial, and the county proposes to change the land use to mixed use, which has a height restriction of 65 feet. However, the city's plan proposes their portion as regional center, which has no restriction on height. This is different from the county's proposal. I'm sure many of you guys attended the city's virtual meeting, which took place earlier this month. We are working with the city's planning team about how best we could work together on this issue to harmonize the land use zoning at this site. Yeah, I just wanted to go over the next steps of the project. So August 16th is the date that we will close the public comments on the draft EIR. We had initially circulated the project document for 45-day review, but after receiving input, we have extended it to 60 days, which gives the new deadline of August 16th. In fall, we will finalize the documents and release the public hearing documents. We are anticipating a regional planning commission public hearing in October of this year, and ultimately having the project adopted by the Board of Supervisors in January of 2025.
So the current zoning or what's actually built? We, yeah. So, hold on. So the question, and let me just, we're gonna modify on the spot because we have about an hour left. So the question was like, what's currently at the site in regards to heights, and then what does the 65 feet kind of equate to in regards to stories? Because that's usually how we think about it, right? So it could be anywhere between 5 to 6 stories. Another, the 65 feet depends how tall each story is, and then it depends, because some folks have. I know it's not a popular answer because there's some folks do higher ceilings, some projects might have mezzanines. There's a whole range. So 65 feet is anywhere between 5 to 6 stories typically. And then in the proposed land for the county, there's a gradient. So the whole, if a project were to come up and they were to propose something, it wouldn't be one whole like block of a building with the max height. But we hear you on the height up to 6 feet. Sorry, 6 stories, not 6 feet. My apologies. So this is how we want to pivot, hearing you all out, right? For right now, I believe it has up to 2 stories. The potential for the height. So let me tell you how we're gonna pivot to maximize the rest of the hour in hearing you all. For those of you that want to deepen on the maps and want to have more deeper conversation in the different areas that are outside, you're welcome to join the regional planners outside for that. Again, the reason why we also have tables to deepen is because, as someone mentioned, it does get technical really quick, right? This is, yeah, no, I'm just saying for those that want to, because some people do want to go to the maps and go deeper on the maps. We will take note for next time. We will take notes for next time. So we can use the hour, you can keep interrupting, or we can use the hour to go through the questions. Okay? So we'll take the notes for next time. So the piece for, again, for today and why we did this in person, we understand that it's technical, right? We heard feedback that folks don't like the smaller groups. In order to dig deeper, you got to do smaller groups and have more people there. That's the reality of it. We hear you. There is quite a few notes there, and I know there's a lot of you that don't want any changes. Some people do, right? The reality is that there will be some changes. So to the questions that people submitted, if no zoning changes are going to happen, yes, there will be some zoning changes. Is it going to be as presented? Not necessarily. Okay. Yes. So I'm answering the question because there's questions in the cards that say, there's comments that say that they don't want any changes whatsoever. So I'm responding to that question. That there will be some changes in the land use and zoning. So that's what I'm saying. So can we get some of the cards up? So we're gonna pass for moderating. And then for the regional planning team that needs to be up here to answer some of these questions. We hear it, but I'm being honest and transparent. Supervisor Mitchell were here, she would tell you the same thing. I already shared with you that she's gonna come to a different listening session. We didn't want to cancel this one. If you don't want to continue with the meeting, we can stop. How many of you want to continue with the meeting? For those of you that don't want to continue because she's not here, you all can wait till we get the other date and you can come back when she's there. But if we want to continue, we'll take the cards. Where's Miriam? Okay. Can we get the light back up? All of the questions go on official record. We type them all up and supervisor gets them as well. So, Mary, can you come up to moderate? We're gonna get started with the questions. That's why we wanted it today, so that we could get the input into the.
Okay, thank you all. This is Tracy Lyons with the Ladera Heights Civic Association. Ladera Heights Civic Association and UHA requested that the county come back out and hear our voices and our questions. Now, we have used an hour. We could talk about the benefit of that later. We have 1 hour left. We want our questions answered and let the people answer the questions. Please, no crosstalk. We want to hear what you think. We've heard from them.
All right, so we're gonna start reading. How will it finally be determined that a plan of the county moves forward if this community does not want the plan to move forward? So as I shared, right, this is an input process, right? For Supervisor Mitchell and the entire Board of Supervisors, we're managing a lot of different issues that we hear from all of the different constituents. So as much as some residents across, we hear it in all the different unincorporated areas that they want no changes whatsoever. The reality is that no changes also equals no additional resources or possibilities for the other things that we do hear people want. Improvements in streets, in sidewalks, in parks. So in order to be able to continue to do all of those different things, we need to update. The risk of not updating our plans and submitting them on time, it locks us out of other state and federal resources. That's one of the risks we take. If nothing changes in any of our plans, then the risk we take is that we don't get the state and federal resources that actually help with the infrastructure. Somebody said there's taxes. At a local level, most of the taxes that come back are from sales tax. We're not getting rid of the Ladera Center. The Ladera Center is going to be there. The small businesses and the businesses that are there are a priority for you all. They're a priority for us. And in order for them to sustain longer term, they have to have customers as well, right? So in the land use and zoning, what we can do is continue to build in guidelines that will allow for these smaller businesses to be able to continue to thrive. Right. That was that question. What's another one? What's this one? All right. Oh. All right, this person wrote in cursive, so let me do my best. Some of the targeted areas are very close to single-family homes. Centinela, Green Valley, Ladera Shopping Center. How is protecting single-family homes being accomplished given the proximity to single-family homes to the targeted areas? Connie, can I pass this one to you around single-family homes and the preservation? Single-family.
Yeah. So we are not targeting single family homes. If anything, I mentioned in my presentation that based on the community input, we have selected the opportunity zones to be the opportunity sites to be along commercial corridors. If any of these opportunity sites abuts single family or such as R1, zoned as R1 or R2, there is a setback for the mixed use height the height requirement that is to be reduced to 45 feet if it abuts any R1 or R2 zones. And again, all of the opportunity sites are focused along the commercial corridors and away from the single family residences. And it was our best intention to place them away from the single family residences.
No, so what Julie is explaining, again, from the land use and zoning perspective, is how through that tool, we're looking at in this community, not focused on the single family homes to preserve the character of the single family neighborhoods. So on the land use and zoning, that's why regional planning looked at the corridors for the opportunity sites. I'm going to go to the next question. It says, so that's in one of the comments. We're going to have to come back. So when there's that level of detail, we have to come back to the maps. Again, for that level of details, we generally like to do smaller groups to dig in more deeply on the parcel level. Yeah, no, I cannot tell you right now because we need to be able to dig into the maps to be able to look at. So we've shared what the regional planning looks at for the sites. So this other question is, why aren't the city and county working together for the west side? LA County planning area. Is this plan considering the service planning areas? What did the review of all residential homes include? So city and county working together, as I mentioned, I've met with the city planners, regional planning has met with the city planners. Supervisor Mitchell sent a note over to Councilmember Parks, so there will be more communication. I know the city of LA is going to host another meeting as well for their area plans in person. And we've also proposed to them of bringing together for a meeting. The city of LA's plan is on a different timeline. So we're still working on that piece with them. If the LA County planning area is considering the service planning area, so service planning areas are how the county approaches for like health and the homelessness plan and the services. So the area plans don't match exactly to the service area plans. So there's overlap and we have 8 different service planning areas. Ready for another card?
Right. Okay, thank you. It's just that we're seeing a consensus here. We're seeing threads that are common amongst most of the comments that have been submitted. So our plan was to group those similar comments and be able to address them simultaneously. And a predominant amount of the questions that we've seen pertain to housing. It seems as though most of you are concerned about issues of housing and how housing will impact, housing changes will impact. So we're trying to combine those and congeal it into one answer. Right, right.
So we hear you on the quality of life. It's incorrect that we're trying to destroy the quality of life. I understand that the the potential for change is hard. And that is absolutely not true. It's not about ruining the quality of life. It is about seeing what's needed now and what's in the future, and also managing all the different requirements from the state, from the federal, and the fact that, again, resources, like recently, as an example, regional planning was awarded a grant from the federal government. It's called the Pro Housing Grant. And one of the components on that is looking at infrastructure, streets, sewage, and how to bring that together. One of the reasons why we're successful, LA County was successful in getting that grant, is because of these planning efforts. Right? So if as a region, we want to see improvements on the infrastructure at the other levels of jurisdiction, at the state and at the federal, they are adding more and more contingencies in order to be able to draw down and be competitive for that money. That is how we're able to do the infrastructure. Recently, in the city of Compton, for one of their bridges, right? The only reason they were able to do the repairs for that bridge, because the city doesn't generate enough, whether through income tax or property tax, to be able to do those repairs, it was through a state grant. That's an example. Right? No, I'm explaining to you that because around land use and zoning, even if we don't, Supervisor Mitchell in our office doesn't necessarily agree with all the pieces and changes at the state and federal level are happening. But once they make that choice and that decision, that's the environment that we also have to take into account when we're bringing these forward to you. This other question is also around housing. Are or do they plan to build duplex or units in areas that have none that exist in communities such as View Park? So this area plan does not include the residential. However, as Julie put forth around state bills, some residents here have already contacted our office around the accessory dwelling units. The state has passed different laws around accessory dwelling units that even if we don't change any of the zoning, the state laws would allow for those of you that have single family homes and meet those requirements to build the accessory dwelling units. So there isn't a change in the zoning that would allow for what this question says, duplexes. We are not building the houses in Angeles Vista. So the plans, so this is why we're restating, right? And we understand the concern around the land use and zoning. None of these are build plans. None of these are like there's a developer that's ready to roll tomorrow to build. This is zoning, yes, on Angela Vista, is the zoning and land use. And if the property owners either want to build or sell, then that's when something changes. We're not building, regional planning is not built. To answer that question, just answering that question for the individual. So yeah, and what I was explaining, that's right. That's right. So for any of you that on your property, you're interested in doing accessory dwelling units, if you're interested in extending a room, it applies to that as well. So you're right. If somebody wants to do it and have the capital to do it, once in even the zoning that's here right now, right? What? No, can I get? I'll write that one down because I don't know off the top of my head. The question was around Wayfair. So we will look into that because I don't know off the top of my head. So I don't know how many properties Wayfair has in there. The county land needs to be considered in the context of the 3 neighboring cities. Oh, this one's for cross jurisdictions. So here we're talking about the unincorporated area in the county. So this comment is for us to also consider in looking at the neighboring cities, so City of LA, Inglewood. And the fact that there already exists some physical and jurisdictional challenges. So especially around traffic, the corridors passing through La Cienega corridor. Sorry, there's more. I have no issue. I have no issue with allowing additional housing density, but first you need to solve for that, the traffic. The county is working with LA, Culver City, Inglewood, and SCAG to implement the La Cienega corridor solutions in 2010. So this is more of a comment, less of a question around traffic. And we've heard that from multiple people and taking into account what the surrounding cities are also doing. So this meeting is not an open mic meeting that way. That's why we're doing the comment card so that we can get through as many questions as possible. I'm not going to be able to get through every single question. We're grouping. You may not like the answer, but I'm answering the questions. So we're going to keep going. What's the next question?
So there's a comment here about rezoning. The question in there is, can we say 100% that eminent domain would not be exercised, especially since every district is supposed to deliver new housing? We can say 100% there's no eminent domain involved. Sure, we're happy to. Yeah, I can promise you no eminent domain.
Let me expand why eminent domain is not. So for those folks that might not be aware, so eminent domain is the process where a government can, in essence, force a sale of a property. It's not just taking the property. So in order to use eminent domain, and why Connie is saying with assurance in the plan it doesn't have that, is because it's a legal proceeding. There's requirements even for a court to that you can use that law to purchase. We still have a government still has to purchase the property under eminent domain and pay market rate. So you're paying market rate, you're paying for the legal, you still have to go through legal. So it actually costs a lot more. And for a government to utilize eminent domain, so at the county, the last time that we used it was actually on Vermont, Manchester, in the city of LA. For those of you that might not be familiar, there's a seed school there, retail and housing, and it was a vacant property for a really long time. And in order to follow through with that commitment, that's the last time it was used. There is no intention because of how arduous that process is. It's not as easy as just like, oh, we want that property, we're going to take it.
So here's another question that I think is on a lot of people's minds. How does building a bunch of apartment buildings impact our streets and other infrastructure? Will this new zoning remove our banks, grocery stores, restaurants? How will traffic be managed? We have too much traffic now. So we mentioned before that concurrently with the plan, we will be developing what is called a capital improvement plan. It's actually something the county doesn't do now. It's a tool that many cities use to plan for infrastructure. So that is something that we are going to be doing for the Westside planning area. And the focus could be anything from sewer capacity to streets, to utilities. So if you're wondering if we're just zoning for more capacity, we are also planning for the infrastructure. Yes. So I think a lot of people are also wondering about traffic. So if you have had a chance to look at the draft area plan, we do want you to know that it's not just focused on housing and land use. There's also something called a mobility element. And if you haven't looked at it, please do so, because so when I say mobility, I mean transportation, I mean walking, accessibility. Right now, the way that the plan addresses traffic impacts is we're trying to remove what we call vehicle miles traveled. That's a so when
So that is part of the movement around how we're going to improve the environment. So as strongly as you might disagree with that, that is what exists and that is what we're going to use. So that is what it is, the environment that we have, and that's the tool that we have. And that is about, for those of us, both. So that is for health and reducing miles, of encouraging, like, how do we build out and enhance the communities so that we're getting out of our cars and not using it as much traffic. You can disagree with it, but that is the place where we're at right now. So we're going to continue to use that measurement because that is what the state dictates. We're going to continue to use that because that is what we have to use. I'm going to ask this other question that connects to that, because it is, what is the plan to accommodate parking for proposed rezone, upzoning of Ladera Shopping Center and surrounding areas? There is still parking requirements under this proposed change in zoning. So it all comes down to, like, what if they propose something, what they're proposing, to see what parking is there. One of the other areas that regional planning is exploring is how we can encourage shared parking so that it increases access and opportunity for more parking spaces, which is what this question was asking. Shared parking is when there's a structure and multiple businesses. So right now, each business has to provide their own parking, right? They have to have a certain amount of units. In a shared parking model, we take into account all of the businesses and have a parking lot structure that all of the businesses can share. So that helps the businesses. Can I give you an example? With new construction, yes, here on, Slauson Hilltop Cafe, behind there's that big parking lot. That is a shared parking, right? So the businesses all use that shared parking, right? So that is something else that we're continuing to explore, of like how to support the businesses so they don't have to include that. That's a big challenge for some businesses to be able to provide the required parking. Next card. All right, we're gonna keep going with the cards because we have about 20 more minutes. We are gonna we're gonna honor the end time because that's what the church allowed us to have, and in everybody's time.
Hi, I think the church would be willing to give them additional time if they like it. Would you like additional time?
Okay, then we'll go to 8:20. So the next question is, there are more than communities, View Park, Ladera, Windsor, in the unincorporated area. So why just focusing on the 3? The second question, before changing the zoning, answer the traffic issue or address the traffic issue.
So I know that as part of our presentation, we've focused on Ladera Heights, View Park, and Windsor Hills. So it kind of feels like we're focused on them. However, I think in the presentation, we explained Marina Del Rey is covered by a different plan, so we can't address it here. The other things like Bayona Wetlands, we have no land use jurisdiction. Franklin Canyon is a park. So it's really West Fox Hills, Ladera Heights, View Park, and Windsor Hills that we're focused on. But I want to give you the countywide perspective as well, because this is not the only place where the county is currently preparing an area plan. If you saw some of the information outside and in the slides, we are also preparing a metro area plan: East San Gabriel Valley, West San Gabriel Valley, San Fernando Valley, South Bay. So we are not focused and targeting these particular communities. This is a county-wide effort to address the housing mandates that we have from the state.
And again, the question was, there are more than the communities of Eat Park, Ladera, Windsor, and the unincorporated areas. So why are we focusing on just these three? This plan covers those. In our district, we also have the metro area plan that got adopted that has, as you saw there, one of the slides for housing. And then we're also right now have an open period of environmental impact review for the South Bay area plan that includes unincorporated areas. So all of the unincorporated areas have and are included in area plans. For here, we focus on the ones for this community. What's the next card? The next card. I've explained before that we wanted to do smaller group to be able to dig into the conversation. So the public input process is to get the comments and the questions in and be able to go through the technical questions that people have. That is the input process. So this is every time that there's a meeting, we share out items. I understand that it doesn't reach everybody. I understand that it doesn't reach everybody. We can finish right now or we can go through the questions. Do y'all want to finish the meeting right now? We can finish right now or we can keep going through the questions. We can finish the meeting right now. No. I'm here. I work for Supervisor Holly Mitchell. You know what? It's okay. We can go. We don't have to continue. We don't have to continue the meeting.
Okay, listen. I know we are all passionate about this, okay? You have two organizations that are working on your behalf and others as well to make sure that our voices are heard. But guess what? They cannot hear your voices if you yell. Diane? So listen, everyone, Diane included. We want to hear the answers so we can hold them accountable. If we talk over, you will not be heard. We are going to stay here because the church that I attend says we can. So if you want to hear the questions, let them speak, and then we can engage in a dialogue. Oh, and look, people are trying their best to answer the questions. They have talking points, we understand that, but let them ask the questions, we can engage in follow-up. You want to do one more? Also, let me bring to your attention, while we're here to get questions, you have the ability to also ask questions directly and get responses, but know that there are organizations working on your behalf to get them answered as well. But if you want to reach them directly, on your sheet, on your chair, is the email address, which I believe is Westside Area Plan at laplanning.gov. All righty, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the next card. Okay. So there's a comment. This is a comment. And again, this is similar to some other comments we've received, so I'm gonna read it. As a Ladera Heights resident for over 22 years, I love my community, and the only changes we need is to improve the infrastructure and to let it remain as single family homes, 2 to 4 units residential area, We don't need any upzoning or downzoning in our community. So this is, I'm reading the comment and I know that we have multiple comments that are similar. Are these proposed zoning changes mandated by housing shortages? I'm gonna turn to Connie because in part, yes.
Again, that was the whole point of explaining the housing mandates. I know that everybody wants to maintain their single family neighborhoods. We understand that you equate those with quality of life. And I think our strategy is we need to put the housing somewhere and it's mandated by the state. So we want to. So if I can answer. So we have to put the housing somewhere, and this is why we are here.
So we're answering the question. Again, y'all might not like the answer. You may not like the answer. The question was, is this part of addressing housing shortages? Yes, that is the answer to the question. You may not like it. Part of the reason for that is because the restrictions on housing over time had constricted what has been built and the availability of housing. So there is mandates to address on the land use and zoning, the capacity to be able to potentially have those housing units. So again, you may not like the answer, but the answer is yes, it is to address shortages on housing. There's this other question that says, what is in the plan for the many churches in Ladera Heights? Example, Knox, University, Christian, Ethiopian Church. Sorry, it's St. James. It says on the card, it says Ethiopian. Yeah. So proposed changes in the church zoning opportunity sites.
So there is SB4, the Affordable Housing on Faith Lands Act. So this is a state mandate, but through the Westside area plan, we did notice, we did select a few or a couple of church sites. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we are taking comments and reconsidering those sites. So that is why we are having this public comment period.
So the next card is Home Depot and surrounding area being proposed for a metro rail? These are many single family residents in the area adjacent to Slauson that will be impacted.
So this is also a misinformation. There is no designation of changing that site to metro station or transit hub. That is not true, and that is not being considered as a transit hub.
And that goes to Metro, so we'll note that when Supervisor Mitchell comes so she can go over that, because that doesn't get captured in this plan. It's the transit plan on the light rail expansion, and that's not included in the current plans for Metro light rail expansion. So this question is, what do you mean when you stated that Ladera Center is being considered for mixed use? What is mixed use? Connie?
So good question. And it's good for us to clarify. When we say mixed use, we're talking residential and commercial uses. So I think we already covered that the proposed height is 65 feet. But that's just to answer the question. I know mixed use can mean a lot of things, so I think that was actually a great question, whoever wrote that comment card.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Connie said, mixed use just means that in one place you can have multiple uses. So for example, there's some faith-based locations that also have schools. So it's used as a church and it's used as a school, that's mixed use. In reference to the Ladera Center, it's referencing retail and housing. But mixed use just means, as it says, multiple uses in the same area. So can it be exclusively one use? No. No. So the question is, can it just be, if it's designated mixed use, and if it stays as it is, it stays as it is. It doesn't force the change. But if they're going to propose something new, it would have to comply with both uses. So yes. So okay, next question. How will the rezoning and proposed changes impact the affordability of housing for renters and home prices? So on home prices in surrounding neighborhoods where there is development around shops and so forth, more often than not, the prices go up because of the additional amenity or the value. The value of the properties go up. That means that if they get sold, they can go for higher. In regards to renters and affordability, that just depends how many total units are actually end up getting developed. If nothing gets developed, then the affordability becomes less for renters. When there is no development, when there is no additional rental units, your current rental stock, the prices continue to go up. And on the single family homes, generally the value continues to go up. So it becomes less affordable when there is no additional units built or provided in an area. And again, I'm responding to this question. How will the rezoning and proposed changes impact the affordability of housing for renters and home prices? It impacts if there is development that eventually happens at the site. If no development happens, if no additional housing units, whether for sale or for rental, get developed, it becomes less affordable. Rental prices go up, and it's harder for people that want to rent or buy on their homes. What does affordable housing mean? Does it include senior housing? Oh, sorry, does it include Section 8 housing? So Section 8 housing can happen in two ways. A person can have a voucher, and if they have the voucher, then the place needs to accept the voucher. So the zoning, it doesn't designate the program that potentially funds for the people. So Section 8 is a funding program that allows people to pay part of the rent, and then the federal government contributes the rest of the rent. I'm going to let Julie answer the other part.
So I just want to add to that another really great question. So when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about a range. I think previous comments that we've heard, people have asked, does this mean people, housing people who are experiencing homelessness? And it can, but it can also include affordable home ownership. And we heard affordable home ownership is a big concern in the community as well as it relates to generational wealth. So when we talk about affordable housing, we are talking about a broad range. And just to give you an example, wish we had copies, but of something called affordable housing income limits. It's posted by the county annually. But just to give you an idea, 80% of area median income is a typical affordable category. And that translates into a household of four making $100,000 a year. And, you know, even at the county, I mean, we're county employees. Whenever we see those income limits, they're not that far off. And I think most people can find those figures relatable. So again, when we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about people who grow up in the community and can no longer afford to live here because they're being priced out. And I think this is a concern of yours. I know that you are also concerned about the increasing impacts of our homeless populations. We want to be able to help people experiencing homelessness, and the way to do that is to provide housing. So it really is a big picture strategy when it comes to affordable housing.
So Housing is, it could be both. It could be, when we say housing, it's everything. Single family, apartments, multi-unit, single unit, it's broad. This question is, what state and federal resources will not be there, will be removed if there are no zoning changes? This question is a reference to comment made about why zoning changes are needed. So whatever allocations we already have do not get taken back. It just means if we don't do the zoning changes, we won't have opportunities for the future funding rounds. So for example, at the state level, around the housing element and the zoning, and some of you might have seen in the news why some cities are challenging that, is because if they don't have a completed housing element, then there's monies potentially for like parks that the state wouldn't approve, monies for other infrastructure. At the federal level, the momentum around mobility, and that's why we're focused also on the mobility plans. The federal government in a lot of their grants is looking at environmental resiliency and connecting to what are the local jurisdictions doing to help around that, around housing. So it really depends. So it won't take away what we already have. It means that we won't be competitive. Either we won't receive it, we won't qualify, or if we submit, we won't be competitive to actually get those resources to do the infrastructure. So, you know, the federal level, one of the big infrastructure dollars is around the green economy and green infrastructure. All of that is tied to mobility, to increasing housing density. And if we don't have that, then we don't qualify for those opportunities, which just means that it'll take many more administrations, if they change that we won't have those resources or access to those resources. So that's where it ties back to traffic, because we need those infrastructure dollars to be able to help with that. This question is, what are the specific laws, sections and codes relative to the planner's proposed zoning and land use changes for the County of Los Angeles? Also, what local ordinances, if any, apply to your proposal? So earlier, when they were going through this, people thought that was too technical. So I'm just going to have them answer where in the general code, which is Title 22, this houses, and we can add that for anybody who's really interested in reading the sections and the codes, but just keep it high level, Connie.
So everything that is in the zoning code today also applies to the plan. So just because you don't see it proposed with the plan doesn't mean it doesn't apply. So one example we've been giving to people is something called an inclusionary housing ordinance. A lot of people have said if developers are going to redevelop certain properties, then what are they going to give back to the community, or where are the community benefits? And you might not see it in the plan because it already exists. We already have a requirement that says that developers have to provide affordable housing. So it is hard to connect all the dots, and we do apologize. It is very technical, but everything that you know about the zoning code today is applicable. I also want to add that we are adding some concurrent changes to the zoning code along with the plan. And this is something I would encourage you to zero in on. It's something we call the area standards district. This is the opportunity to add development and design standards concurrent with those land use changes. So as part of the draft, definitely take a look at those.
So I'm going to go to the next two questions, and I just want to share that in addition to regional planning and this going into the record for Supervisor Mitchell, we write these all up. And I just want to share, because I know she reads these, but I was even more shocked at how these stand out to her. We had a meeting around the Metro Line extension options and all of those different comments. I was staffing her one day, and a resident that was in that meeting that submitted a comment, she almost word for word said what was in that comment. So she does read all these. We do type them. We take the time to type these all up and go through them with her. And she'll have them. So for those of you that are still holding on to yours because you don't think she's going to see them or we're not going to forward to them, if you can submit them, we do go through them with her. I'm going to do these next two. So this one is it has a comment and a question. I'm going to read the whole comment. Ladera community has a quality of life and recognition that we worked hard to achieve and sustain. As of late, there have been a few stalled developments that have negatively impacted the beauty and lifestyle of neighboring communities, such as Inglewood at Spruce and Nutwood, for example, behind Vaughn's grocery store. Consequently, are there surety bonds that LA County and the city can secure within an accepted contract that will guarantee a finished product by the chosen developers? Also, the federal government has paid money to build homes for the homeless. In most terms, homeless equates to indigent. How do those funds to build for the homeless relate to the notable stature of Ladera Heights? So the first question, I think that's a great idea. We're going to look into it right now because it's the private developers or developers, they're all private. They have to secure the capital to be able to build the projects, right? So currently, just as all of you homeowners are experiencing the increase in insurance costs, so our developers, in addition to the interest rates. So we are seeing more stalled projects across the board, whether it's affordable, whether it's market rate, whether it's retail, whether it's industrial. So I'm going to take this one as an idea as we're working through those challenges and figuring out how we dislodge those projects to make sure that they're completed and not just sitting there as blighted properties. So thank you for submitting it as a question, but I'm going to take it as a suggestion and work that up through the policy. In regards to the homes for people who are experiencing homelessness and in relation to Ladera, the homelessness and housing is a regional effort, right? To minimize the amount of people who are unhoused or falling into homelessness. Ladera Heights, any community, we need to have the housing that's affordable to the levels of income that people make. So I'm not talking about the technical definition of AMIs that Connie mentioned, right? So those investments in the services, in the housing for people who are experiencing homelessness is to, because of the quality of life issues, because of folks being on the street, we want to bring them into housing. We want to make sure that they're not blocking sidewalks, blocking streets. So that investment helps regionally, and then in return helps each of this year, the homelessness count showed no increase. So for the first time in 6 years, those investments across the board, the rent relief for people who are housed, the different services and the programs around Pathway Home are starting to, we can see the impact of the difference that they're making. I'm going to go to the next question. Does anything in the plan require affordable housing if the zoning and land use are changed? Connie? Does anything in the plan require affordable housing if the zoning and land use are changed?
Yes, as I mentioned before, we do have an existing inclusionary housing ordinance. Depending on the number of units proposed and the affordability that the developer chooses, they might be required to provide 5 to up to 20%. And if you want more information about the inclusionary housing ordinance, we're happy to follow up with you.
I'm going to do one more for here and then we'll go back to the table. Why are so many new buildings half vacant? Why aren't developers being held accountable for filling those buildings? So I can tell you that on any buildings that have public dollars, we do hold those developers accountable. Any buildings that are all private, that they manage, we currently don't have a tool around that. Some other areas have passed what's called a vacancy tax, And I know that Supervisor Mitchell's interested in that. We're gonna start talking to the other offices to see if there's some traction around that. So a vacancy tax is if they're intentionally leaving apartments empty or houses empty, because sometimes it's single-family homes that are sitting empty, that they have to pay a fee, a tax for leaving those empty. So it is something that we're exploring. So I know you're stating it as a question, but this is also another idea and an opportunity to make sure that what is built in regards to housing is being used or having people living in them. So we're gonna go to another card. Is there another housing? Here. This one says, what makes our area unincorporated? What types of housing, low income? How committed is LA County to stop the project if the majority of the residents don't want this? So what makes our area unincorporated? That is a wonderful question. I don't know off the top of my head the year as cities were incorporating. There was land that those cities decided not to bring into their boundaries. I don't remember off the top of my head why exactly that was allowed, but that was allowed. There is discriminatory history that's connected to that on the areas that were brought in and not brought in to cities. Supervisor Mitchell with some of our colleagues have been looking at it and bringing that up to see where are there opportunities to bring in unincorporated areas into cities. So that's that question. The what types of housing? Again, it's an array of housing. The area plans look at the land use and zoning. Overall, at the county, we want to encourage the different types of housing that are needed, from single family for sale to multi-unit for sale, student housing, senior housing, family housing. We need housing across all the different populations, as well as all the different income levels. So can we get the next card? How was the county's requirement for 90,000? Sorry, let me try that again. How was the county's requirement for 90,000 housing units derived? What share of that number applies to Ladera Heights? So I'll pass this to Connie because the state gives us that number.
So there's a process that we go through. It's called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, as you might have heard. It's a process that's statewide. Every jurisdiction gets a number. That number comes from the Southern California Association of Governments, or SCAG. And they consider a number of things. They look at the housing needs, they look at existing housing units, they look at the condition of housing, vacancy rates. It's a very technical process. They also consider things, even student housing needs. So it's pretty specific. But Southern California Association of Governments facilitates that process. The county did have an opportunity to review it, as all jurisdictions did. And then ultimately, the number is given to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and they go through an approval process. If you're curious, the number was way lower than what the state actually assigned to the SCAG region as a whole. And then it was divided by jurisdiction. So our number is 90,000. If you're curious about the city of LA, it's 468,000. So we're looking that up right now.
They're gonna put it back. They're gonna put the slide back up that has the housing allocation per the different areas. For the Westside area plan. And then 4,000 for Ladera. Yes, for the Westside area plan, yes. Oh, hold on just a moment.
So the entire West Side planning area has 6,004 units allocated. And I remind you again, this isn't the only community that's in West Side planning area. About 4,800 units are allocated, and out of the 6,000 are in Ladera Heights, View Park, Windsor Hills.
So the different number, it looks at the different areas. So I'm gonna go to this next one. Traffic congestion on Slauson. Sorry, it's my Spanish is trying to come out, sorry. Traffic congestion on Slauson is bad now. How can you add density before mitigation exists? Heights at Ladera is landlocked now. 84 homes have one entry exit. How will they get out with more density? I'm assuming that landlocked is around the streets. So, yeah. So, traffic is an ongoing challenge everywhere, right? As I mentioned earlier, the reason why, we all know that, the reason why the goal is around vehicle miles traveled. So how many miles we're in our car and we're traveling, why that's the target, because there was a point in time where the big movement was just like reduce the number of cars. We all love our cars, right? Like I have my car as much as I do train. So overall on congestion, it is about us, I'm going to include myself because I'm a car driver, about using our car less, right? I hear you. So part of what the region is doing, part of the region is around mobility. Again, we're in this phase where we don't have enough, and we're going to continue to build to be able to use that and be able to build out in order to be able to get to that place of being able to build out. And I hear you. That's part of the transition in order to be able to get there. That again, you don't like the answer, but congestion around cars is less cars on the road, right? So we're gonna go to the next card because I know why you're asking that. That is the answer to that question. It doesn't resolve the congestion, but it's an answer to the question. It doesn't resolve the answer. How and when? So, okay. So this one's around like that these are public comments. In the next draft, what will be addressed from the feedback that's being provided? When can we expect the next draft to be able to review and comment before finalized?
So we are required to provide a revised draft plan 30 days before the hearing. So you will at least see a revised draft. And based on these comments, you can see what was addressed and what was not. The next opportunity then is to provide your comments to the Regional Planning Commission. They're the first stop in terms of decision-making. So if you look at the revised draft and something's missing or you don't like something, then that's when you tell the decision maker, I provided this comment to the planning staff and they did not incorporate it into the draft, and put it in your public comment. You also have the opportunity on the day of the public hearing to come out and speak.
So again, we're going to continue to share it through the different ways, and we're going to continue to improve based on your feedback on where we're reaching. Sorry, the question so I'm looking at the frequently asked questions, and we're pointing out the question that's been received before, if upzoning in the community will worsen displacement and gentrification. So that's the header. I'm just giving context. And then It says the existing affordable housing preservation ordinance requires that units that are or were on the site that were occupied by lower income tenants be replaced with units that are affordable at the same income level or below. So this is referencing when there's an existing building. If there's an existing housing building that has housing, and this affordable housing preservation ordinance applies to that housing building, if it gets torn down or renovated in a way where the residents need to leave the building, what this is saying is that the new units or the renovated units need to be provided at the same rents as the people that were living there before. This only applies to the existing buildings where this ordinance applies if they get torn down or renovated enough where the residents are needing to leave the building. It doesn't only to existing buildings. So if I live in a building and I'm paying $2,500 a month and they're gonna tear it down and I have to leave, then the new unit, there has to be at least one new unit that it's at the same level that I paid. That's what, and I'm just explaining what's referenced here in regards to a requirement under that ordinance. New buildings, the inclusionary zoning applies to new buildings where a percentage of the units target below market rents and income levels. I know it's really complicated. No, this one, I'll come over and explain this one to you. Because this one's around climate consequences. So this is a comment, so I'm gonna read the comment. This is a racist proposal with severe climate change consequences. What can be done to stop it? The climate change consequences.
So we are required in the EIR to address the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So when we're talking climate change, we're talking reducing greenhouse gases, right? Yes, we are. I also want to add that as part of the general plan, the Board of Supervisors recently adopted a climate action plan. And that is a countywide goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And there are a number of actions that we have in the climate action plan to get there. So this works in lockstep with that climate action plan because they're all part of the general plan.
So the climate action plan has multiple different areas, including around industry, which is where, and transit, which is where we have the greatest greenhouse gas. And again, there's multiple different plans that intersect together. That climate action plan just recently got adopted by the board last 2 months ago. 2 months ago got adopted by the plan. Who exactly will benefit from the increased residential density produced by the proposed rezoning, and who will be harmed? So who exactly will benefit from the increased residential density produced by the proposed rezoning, and who will be harmed? So the owners of the property benefit from the increased zoning. And then depending on what gets built there, if we're able to get the housing that is needed at the levels of the income, then there's opportunity for the residents to be able to continue to be here. The plan does not have specifics on the different levels. When we say affordable housing, it's 80% AMI and below. For sale, it generally targets 120% of the area median income and below. So it depends on the family size. Connie cited the most recent numbers in LA County at 80% AMI for a household of 4. You're talking about a household that's earning $100,000 or less. So depending on the family size and the composition, the income goes down or up for the limits for those programs. Okay, so this question is this meeting to tell us what is going to happen or to ask us our input? I think this was asked also earlier. It's both. We're sharing what the proposed draft is, and then we're asking for input for the next draft of the Westside area plan. It's the next card. Why is the area plan being updated? I think there is a need for a thorough explanation of why updates are needed.
And it has to do with state mandates. The state mandate, if I can be really specific, is to increase the housing opportunities. Everything else around it, the mobility strategies that we talked about, open space, everything that addresses livability, that's the county's proposal. Because we didn't want to just focus on upzoning. We wanted to be more comprehensive and think about quality of life. And I have to just say that having an area plan is very important. The community currently does not have an area plan. Right now, you're part of the general plan, which includes Catalina Island, very different planning area, or the Antelope Valley or the Santa Monica Mountains. So it is very important to have a focused policy document. I heard before the word accountability. The area plan is an accountability document. We're going to put all of these great goals and policies in there, but if you see a proposed project and it's not consistent with those goals and policies, you can point at the plan and say, hey, county, you have a plan that says that you want livable communities, you want beautiful communities, and this project does not represent that. Right now, it's so broad because you're part of the general plan that it's really hard to pinpoint the specific needs of the community. So
again, this is part of the process and it being able to do that. So you have
Okay, thank you for all of you who have stayed here. One thing I do want to raise, and in defense of the county, they are doing what they are mandated to do by the state, okay? So, well, it's a tough job, but here's the thing. If you have a problem with all of these mandates, you need to talk to the state. You need to talk to your representatives, the people we vote in like candy, right? And so if you want that to happen, let us know. And we will have those people who said, you need to put housing in these areas. You need to have no parking. You need to come to you and explain why. If you want that, raise your hand and we will make that happen. Okay, thank you. We will do that.
So
yes, this is true. Holly was in the state legislature, but she will be here to speak to this group. And we have a date. Isn't that correct, Tracy, coming?
So, excuse me, thank you. There will be a meeting with the supervisor, okay? It is coming soon, within the next month. We will have a meeting here. Okay, listen. This is what's going to happen. There will be a meeting here with the supervisor. We've already talked about it. We have been working with your community people who we have identified, Desiree Bowen, Tracy Lyons. We have already decided we will have a meeting with the supervisor. I won't talk over you. Okay? So that is the plan within the next month, okay? We will bring the supervisor. She wants to hear from you all. She wants to hear from you. Okay? Thank you.
we're gonna do a couple more questions. So thank you. Thank you to your leadership that followed up on that with us for that meeting. So this question is, if a home is rezoned to commercial or mixed use, does it become legal non-conforming if destroyed by fire, can it be rebuilt? I'm assuming that question is like to its original form.
Okay, so commercial zones and mixed-use zones by right allow residential single-family homes. Residential single-family homes are the base use that are allowed by right, even in these more intense use zones. So yes, it will be allowed to be rebuilt if it were destroyed by a fire or a flood. Additionally, this question asks about homes on Angeles Vista and Valley Ridge. Now, my understanding of that location, that specific intersection, is that it is in the Opportunity Site 10, Angeles and Valley Ridge, not Valley Ridge. Yes, yes. But this area is in the historic landmark. So Angeles Vista and Valley Ridge is in the National Historic Landmark area. So there might be, depending on whether this was a contributor in historic property, then there might be some caveats to rebuilding that you might want this home to be rebuilt with historic integrity.
I think the site Angeles Vista and Valley Ridge, I think this commenter is referring to opportunity site number 10. Yeah, okay. So again, we have been receiving comments on the selected opportunity sites. And as we all know, this is a draft. And that is the reason why we're accepting your comments so that we could reconsider and reevaluate the appropriateness of these sites.
So so all of these comments are going to be included for the plan. Yes, all of them are included. So this next question, and I think we might have a chance for two more, this one and one more. In terms of housing, why don't you focus on areas where the properties are in poor condition and could benefit from new housing and apartments, specifically affordable housing, which is desperately needed? Not a few units in new overpriced apartment buildings where most of the units being built are overpriced and not affordable. So in the land use and zoning, it doesn't, the way it addresses existing buildings is if the zoning isn't changing. For the county, one of the initiatives is the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency. Through that agency, because at the county regionally, because we want all 88 cities and the unincorporated areas to be doing their fair share, that agency is looking at the protection, preservation, and production. So it's a new agency. It's 1 year in, and this point is well taken, and it is something that we are looking at, existing buildings. Some of you may have seen in the news around an organization that predominantly built in downtown, Skid Row Housing Trust. They, unfortunately, long-term maintenance was a challenge in those buildings, and they ended up losing those buildings. So right now, that is one of the priorities, and we have to secure funding sources in order to be able to improve the existing housing and preserve it, so that we actually have a net positive and not a net negative. If we lose the existing housing, then we won't ever fill the bucket with water. So thank you for whoever pointed this out. This is a very important issue of the existing housing, being able to improve the quality so that we don't lose those units. So we're gonna do these two more. If your goal is to increase housing, why don't you focus on the oil fields? We don't want the oil fields due to the health concerns, and county wants to get away from oil and move towards solar. I'm gonna read both of these because they're related to oil. How much of non-producing portions of the oil wells can be rezoned for residential and commercial use? You want to do?
So one of the opportunity areas is the Inglewood oil field. The reason it is identified as an opportunity area is because the board passed a series of policies to end the production of new wells. So basically, all of the existing wells are non-conforming and they will be phased out in the next 20 years. And there are no new wells that can be established. The countywide ordinance is already in effect, and the board recently adopted the update to the Baldwin Hills Community Standards District, and it'll be, when it's adopted, it will also be in effect. So because that is the existing use, something has to be on the site. We didn't want to not acknowledge it because it's such a big part of the planning area. However, there are no changes to land uses at that time. But again, as we mentioned before, I think someone said, is this a done deal? We see our area plans as living documents, and they're ever evolving based on community needs. We do track things like census data, but that doesn't tell us what your experience is as a resident and somebody who lives and loves the community, which is why it's always going to be a process. And as the communities evolve and the needs change, we need your help to continue to provide us with that input.
And I was going to add to the oil fields. They are potentially opportunity sites or there's opportunity for future development once they clear and fulfill the shutdown. For Supervisor Mitchell, in those conversations, it's really important that whatever gets built and whoever builds there, that the environmental remediation is solid and sound for anything that could potentially go there in the future. I know we're at 20 past. I just want to reiterate again in regards to the notes and the comments that regional planning is taking that for the record of their documents. Our team's going to get copies of all of those. We're going to type them up and have them for Supervisor Mitchell, so she'll see all of them before we get the date locked in for you all within this next month. And then we will share with her your request for the open mic. I want to thank again the Ladera Heights Civic Association and for coordinating the meeting and bringing folks together, and the United Homeowners Association. Thank you so much for putting this together. I'll pass it to you for if you have any closing.
I really want to thank you all for your patience. I want to let you know, and I see your hand, soror. This room had at least probably 280 people in it. We have 125 people on Zoom. So you see, this is an important issue to our community. And we are not only engaged and passionate, but we are making ourselves informed. It's probably killing you, Julie, but we are learning this day by day. And so we plan on having a voice in this. You have a voice. There is a deadline for the EIR of the 16th. UHA and LHCA are both writing comments based on data and analysis. Because as you heard her say, you can't say, I just don't want it. That is not a compelling or successful argument. But what you can say is, what we want is this, and this is what we don't want because. And that is what we are doing. So we ask that when we finish this document, and Ladera plans on having its document done and ready and presented by mid next week, support that document. When we ask you to read it and give your input to these folks, do that. You have showed up. We appreciate that. You have been with us, and we want to encourage you to stay with us throughout the process because it is a process. With regard to Ladera, we will post it on laderamatters.com, and we will blast to let you know when it is there so that you can read it for yourself and make comment. UHA.
Hi, I'm Angela Sherrick-Wright, and I'm the land use chair for UHA. And again, thank you, County, for coming. Thank you for Holly Mitchell's office for coming. Really appreciate it. I know that it was a difficult topic to have, but it's one that we really need to listen to and give feedback to. UHA has been working on our document as well. We will be done hopefully by next Friday, but we're still looking for volunteers. So anybody who wants to have input, please give me a call. And on the UHA side, everybody has my number and they know who I am. But again, if you don't speak up, if you don't come to these forums, then we won't be heard. We need to continue. That's right. Bring your neighbors. Bring your neighbors. Walk the street. Go and talk to people. It's not enough. It's not enough to just to sit at your house and grumble about it. That's not enough. This is our time to actually be heard and to actually read the documents. And as Tracy said, be knowledgeable, right? So I tell people from UHA, even if you don't want to write anything, make a phone call. Call Holly Mitchell's office. It doesn't matter if they don't answer because they are responsible for recording all those calls. So they may not answer, and you may not get an email back, but they are responsible for recording all those calls. So let's not cop out. You can say that they won't answer, but if you don't do it, then it won't get done. Okay? So if you don't do it, it won't get done.
So we do answer emails and phones. Sometimes we don't get to them. To give you an idea of the volume that our office receives relative to everybody else because of our responsiveness, Supervisor Mitchell in December wraps up her first term of 4 years. In the second year, our emails crashed at the volume of emails, and the county executive office was like, no other office has ever experienced that. So that is the volume. So sometimes there's just the automatic response, but as Angela mentioned, all of the ones that you get, they do get recorded, they do get forwarded to us. They do get documented. When we update Supervisor Mitchell, we put it down of how many we get, calls, emails, some of the team members that are here. Sorry? Yes, so we get all of the emails. So that's the challenge with every single one getting responded to in a personalized way.
He talked to you. So
So earlier you mentioned that we need to write the decision makers. Who are the decision makers, their names and their contact information. So we can write directly to the decision makers. Our associations are going to do it, but they need to hear from us as individuals as well. So who are they? Where can we get their contact information? State and local. And your direct contact information. No one has cards? Does everybody have cards? Tracy, you on the decision-making committee?
And one other thing, if you contact the planning department, I have to say that they do respond. If you contact regional planning, they do respond and they will meet with you. So do that too. So again, thank you everyone for coming and good night.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, please call. Yeah.